Good morning, everyone. This video today is going to be looking at the Female Legacy Era Stormtrooper, or the FemTK kit by Kevin Weir. His Facebook page is KW Designs, and the female Stormtrooper is actually in the comics, generally, so you don't see her on screen per se. And so he designed this armor. It's definitely smaller and more feminine and pretty cool. So what we're going to look at today is how your helmet comes together. This is what's in your kit, and we'll be comparing it and just looking at my Anovos stunt TK helmet, just so you can kind of see how the kit's going to be put together. As a note, TK is just short for Stormtrooper. I think it came from the movie when, you know, there's like TK-421 who left his post, and so they call them TKs. So as we look at it today, to get off our feet first, this is what comes in your box, your beautiful brown box. So we have the beginning faceplate, and these are completely untrimmed. It has a little bit of Vaseline on the inside that'll have to be cleaned off, probably so that he could get it off the mold easily. You will be trimming this yourself. Then you have obviously the back. You have green plastic for your lens on the inside, automotive trim that goes around the brow and the bottom. These are your side pieces, your ear pieces. These are supposed to be aerators. They'll be painted black, and they are either glued or screwed in here depending on what you want to do. You have nuts and bolts and a piece of mesh. So this is what comes in your kit. Now, as we look at this and talk about what we're doing, I'll be referring back to my Anovos stunt TK helmet, just so you can kind of see how it gets put together. That's kind of nice. So again, you're going to start off generally with your face. Now, this plastic comes unpainted, so if you were going to paint it, you would trim it, sand it, paint it, and then before you do put it together, obviously. And but it doesn't need to be painted. Some ABS yellows over time, and then you need to paint it. My lighting in here for some reason is kind of yellow, so it looks yellow, but it's really not. It's actually a nice bright white. So on your face part here, you'll see that there are score lines here. These are trim lines, and you'll be trimming it right along this line and then hand sanding it. These are guides for where the screws will be placed, and you just drill them out with a drill. This here is an edge that you'll be trimming as well, because you want this line that goes backwards to continue, and you don't want this part that kind of bends up. And the reason for this is actually quite obvious. When you put on your trim, which it'll kind of go on, depending on how you want to go on, it needs to actually go back on the bottom side instead of flaring up. So you need to trim it so that it actually lays in the proper direction. And like I said, you'll be sanding this and cleaning off this lime, the Vaseline. For the teeth, you will be cutting in different divisors here, probably with a small X-Acto knife. I wouldn't use a Dremel. And the eyes as well, you'll be cutting out. Now, I am a 501st member, and I plan to design my kit, or build my kit, that it will be 501st approved. So I'm going to be looking on the 501st Costume Reference Library page for the Legacy Era Female Stormtrooper, and I'll be comparing and painting it whatever they want. So if they say, hey, you got to paint the teeth black, I will be painting mine black. And they do have a very specific rules. So like here, this will be painted black. These areas are black. I believe the teeth are they're either gray or black, and different things like that. So I'll be painting mine to match that. So with that in mind, if you want to also join the 501st as a member, which shout out is a really wonderful thing. We go visit kids in hospitals and go do libraries and other fun things. Then you want to double check that reference page and make sure things fit exactly. Like one example is that the teeth on this are not, the paint's not supposed to extend beyond the teeth. And if you look here, there's a little bit smeared. Now this is my Anovos helmet that we'll be comparing it to. Anovos is now licensed to sell a large amount of Star Wars costumes. They sell other things too. And this came pre-assembled. And while it is 501st approvable pre-assembled, there's a few things that really aren't quite there. And one of them is the teeth do need to be cleaned up. that one's there. Some people didn't like that these eyes weren't trimmed as quite right, and I admit, I think I'm going to go through and just sand these down a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily go through this one with a Dremel, just in case it cracks. But that's what you do. You sand them down, you'll cut them out, and they'll look pretty nice. And these ones obviously are different make, and that's just because that's what the costume is, and this is painted quite a bit differently. So back to our pieces. This is your ear or side piece. And you might say, why do I have so many? It's so you can mess some of them up. And I fully expect to mess a few up. These are actually very hard to trim. If you can kind of see here what it's going to shape-wise, you are trimming all of this plastic all the way to this edge. And to get it to fit, you might need a couple of different trims. So he gave you extra. I really like that. And if you notice here, one thing to note is that this edge curves to the back. So this edge also has to curve to the back. You can see that that doesn't curve to the back. So this is obviously a left. And I marked, no, wait a minute, let me look at that again. No, it curves the right way. As I say, wait, that isn't right. Here's the left. There you go. So compare them and then mark yours on the inside. I went ahead and marked mine. And then you know before you trim them which direction they are going. So those are your ear pieces. This is your back piece, and you'll see, you'll be like, what are these little markings? They just are there, and that's exactly screen accurate, or this one comic book accurate, and the way it's supposed to be. And then again, he has a cutting mark here that you will then follow the guide as you come around and do the brow. You notice the brow has this lip that comes up, and you're going to actually trim it right off all the way across, trying to make it as straight as you can, and come across and finish it. And just like the other piece here, you have to kind of trim that right along the line there. You might be softly sanding it so that your trim does not flare, all wonky, but is actually folding in the right direction. Just to give you an example of trimming of the brow, if you look on my Anovos helmet, you'll see that the brow is not straight. So that may bother you. A little wonkiness is okay if you're like, oh, I can totally live with that. But I've seen pictures where guys post and their brow significantly goes up, and even they're like, this is not right. So you want to try and cut that as straight as possible, and when you put it together, you might end up taking it apart and re-sanding a few, like sand a little bit here and raise it up, or different things like that to make sure it's kind of straight. Mine's just barely noticeably off, so it's not bad. And like you can see here with the ear pieces, you can see that that one has a pretty snug fit, but this one has a large gap, and that's where that extra pieces there, so you can have you have two to pick from and trim and see how they work. So now as for painting this, you paint them yourself, or you can buy stickers. I chose to buy my stickers from trooperbay.com and skip the painting. But other people have talked about just putting blue painter's tape there and marking off a lovely little trapezoid area, and then you paint it. The brand of paint that's most recommended is Testors. You can buy them at any craft or hobby store. And then this goes on the inside, and we'll look at the inside and see how it attaches. Now, a note on your screws, you have two smaller screws. These ones actually connect this to the lower part of your helmet. They're for there. And then you have 3 sets of screws here. Now, if you notice here, you only have 2 holes, but on these helmets, you have 3. So it stands to reason that this hole goes through just these two pieces, and not your earpiece at all. And then there are 2 screws that then will connect all of these 3 pieces together. And just for example, these are my Trooper base stickers. And I've got ones for the back and the side, and then these. And the CRL was very specific. They have to be black and curved toward the back. And if you swing over to my Anovos, you see that they, again, curve toward the back. And the CRL, the Costume Reference Library page, you can't have any of these trim. And this doesn't exist. This has to be painted all gray, so I'll still be buying some paint, tester paint. And making sure that this fits exactly what they want it to be. So it'll be pretty cool. So anyway, these are the parts that go with your helmet. So for the first time, you're probably going to be assembling these 2 together first. It slides right on top there. And again, with this, you want to kind of make sure that you trim the brow so it is as level as even as possible. And then these will, of course, be trimmed and bolt onto the sides. I do believe that this kind of goes on, you know, last, but I think this piece you would put on probably while you're bolting it down as well, leaving your bolts a little loose. This is just plain old automotive trim. So if you ruin it or you need more, you can just go get some at any hardware or automotive store. And it's pretty neat stuff. Okay, so I wanted to take a look at my Anovos helmet just because it is really nice to look inside this and it gives you a really good view of what you're doing. You're like, oh yeah, that's how it all works. You can see here that these screws will need to be painted. So you'll have to get some white nail polish or white test store paint and paint them so that they match. At the same time here, these are actually screwed in. They have a mesh cover and you can't see them, but the CRL for the FemTK just shows them as black. So if you decide to screw these in, you can drill a hole and screw them in. Then you will need to also paint those black. But you'll be buying black paint anyway to paint this. You can kind of see how the trim goes on. Here they glue the trim with a very easy glue, like probably CA glue, which you can work off. And I've already pulled this off a little bit. I wouldn't glue it with a very permanent glue like E6000 because you may never get it off. And I did want to show you this. This is a crack that's in my helmet, and it's not horrible, but over time and wear, this might to spread. So this is something you would want to patch if you do this to your helmet. You can make some ABS paste with the scraps from that you've trimmed off. You cut them into small pieces and put them in a jar with some acetone, and you add just a little bit of acetone until it dissolves it into glue, and you're looking for mayonnaise. So save your scraps and you can Google how to make your own ABS paste. You can put that on the front and back and then sand it down, things like that. I also have, with this, I just thought, hey, I'll just put a piece of white duct tape on it and it'll reinforce it and hold it for now. I don't have any ABS paste, but you can see how the ears screw right there through the base. And again, they painted those white. And look, that's cracked right there as well. Sorry, I was like, what? And then I moved my phone and you didn't get to see it. So as we look on the inside of our helmet, these are some other things that helmet people warn you about. The helmet is very uncomfortable to wear. Now, real quick, the Anovos one is asymmetrical because it's identical to what was made in the movies, and the movies were handmade in the 70s. So no symmetry, no 3D printers, no fun stuff. But they put in a motorcycle or a hard hat kind of strapping system to adjust it. People have said this is uncomfortable and they prefer foam pads that you would find in motorcycle helmets. So they purchase those and glue them in. I would do the same thing. You could be cheaper and buy your own craft foam at Joann's and cover it with, like, you know, sleepy fuzzy flannel, and you can do that very inexpensively, or you can buy a you know, helmet kits. I'm sure they sell ladies helmets kits that are smaller and will work. Some other notes are that you have to have some sort of foam or something to pad this with. Other people put rubber on the tips. You still need to cut your screws down probably as well. I plan to cut mine off. Steal some of my hubby's tools. See what I can do. But this will dig into the side of your head, so you want to get some foam. This is just some sort of molding foam. Crafty foam stuff. Just to protect yourself from those ends of the screws. And you can see here how they've mounted this. They have used industrial Velcro, which is way better than regular Velcro. So you need to make sure when you buy Velcro that it says industrial and it's the Velcro brand. The rest of it just isn't good. And you can see this thing just holds better than the glue on the foam. Yeah, if you glue anything, use CA glue and not E6000 because E6000 is a bit more permanent. But yeah, so it pulls off really well. This one they've actually trimmed. So instead of being a big piece that's big all the way, it tapers up here and then goes wide again, so it's cut above the nose. So cutting your piece, I've heard people use a really good plastic scissors. I have not cut anything before. I'm looking forward to learning that skill. Yay. Some people have talked about actually cutting it out for the eyes and then just hot gluing it in there because you can pull it off instead of having all these weird pieces everywhere to give them more room in their helmet. And you may want fans and other comfort things in your helmet because of the heat. You can see that this is where your piece of mesh is going to be, only your mesh is much thinner and definitely not the right size. This looks like some really cool patio, you know, shade cover kind of thing, and I'm going to be looking to replace this with mine. And he just has that double stick foam that you use to put mirrors on walls that you can find in any store. So those are pretty neat. As you can see here, this piece of mesh is not dark. And it's so people can't see your teeth, but that's obviously not really going to help. I'm going to have to cut it in half and it's still going to show. So I think I'm going to go with something else. Not horrible, but not what I'm going for. And again, that piece is enormous when, look at how small the eyes are. So I plan on cutting mine down. And maybe that's the point, is it just gives you the piece of curved plastic so you can cut it down. One other interesting thing is they make bubble lenses, and you can have them custom kind of made, and they bubble out like the movie, and you know, have a more realistic look. So that's the inside of your helmet. You can see there is seams, and this is a thin plastic, so you might be really shocked about that. Other people who have disliked how thin it is have coated the inside with Plastidip, and then that made a very thick feeling kind of helmet that they could haul around and not feel like it's going to fall apart or break. A note on the stand, this is just a cheap paper towel holder that I got from Target. And I wish I'd gotten the clear one. I ended up getting wood because after I got the clear one, I found a man on a Facebook page who sells, he prints the decals, and you can put them on the base, and you can have like the Imperial Cog or whatever. And they looked awesome. So cheap $5 stand from Target. Get the clear one. Get the decals. It looks awesome. One of the places that I have Facebooked in order to get a lot of different building tips is the Anovos Stormtrooper building thread, and there's tons of people offering services, but also they'll answer any questions you want about, hey, I've got this problem. What do I do? And they're pretty amazing. So that's where I found out about buying my decals through Trooper Bay. And also Kevin will answer any emails and give advice. Gosh, is that it? I don't know anything about hair. I guess I thought I'd talk about that. The helmet does seem a bit smaller. And another group to join would be the Ladies of the Legion on the Facebook. You have to be a lady to join, and it's just about costuming. But you can talk to people and they'll say, hey, I use this. I use a swimmer's cap for my hair. I put it in tiny little braids and wrap it around my head. Or I use a balaclava, which I don't know quite how to say it, but a turban style thing that just kind of smashes your hair down. So there's lots of different options there if you find you're having a hard time putting your hair in. Either way, if you've purchased the FemTK kit, and this is an overview of your helmet and how it's going to go assembled together, happy building!